Dawn's pale light crept across the fields near Medzhybizh, a quiet town perched on the banks of the southern Bug. Mist hung low over the marshes and old river channels, the air pregnant with tension. Somewhere in that gray dawn, the growl of engines broke the stillness. In the half-light, silhouettes of armored beasts edged forward, German Panzer IVs in grim formation. Opposite them, 50 Soviet T-34s lay in wait, their crews hidden, ready. What would follow was a confrontation of steel, nerve, and technical edge. A meeting in which numbers, terrain, tactics, and the quirks of machines would collide. As the first shells began to fly, both sides would test their luck, their doctrine, their courage. Which side would prevail, and at what cost? Over the next moments, a microcosm of the Eastern Front would unfold in miniature. If stories like this intrigue you, hit like and subscribe. Ahead lie many more compelling tales from history. In mid-1941, Operation Barbarossa had opened the Eastern Front. The Wehrmacht's panzer divisions thrust eastward, meeting Red Army formations in vast steppes, forests, and marshes. The Soviets countered with mechanized corps built around the T-34, a tank that surprised German crews with its sloped armor and effective firepower. Medzhybizh, situated in western Ukraine, became a focal point of local operations in the summer and autumn campaigns. While formal records are fragmented, local accounts and German after-action reports suggest that in several clashes around the town, German medium tanks, including Panzer IVs, encountered concentrated Soviet armored thrusts. In one such clash, nearly 50 T-34s were committed to push back German lines. The Panzer IV, originally designed for infantry support, had been upgraded by 1942 with a 7.5 centimeter high-velocity gun, improving its anti-tank capacity. It remained the backbone of many German formations on the Eastern Front. The T-34, with its balance of mobility, armor, and firepower, remained a mainstay of Soviet armored forces. Its angled armor gave it superior effective thickness relative to its mass. In the broader sweep of history, clashes like the one at Medzhybizh were not standalone events, but part of a grinding war of attrition. Every tank knocked out, every fuel line cut, every command decision rippled outward. The Germans sought to maintain their armored spearheads. The Soviets tried to blunt them with counterattacks, massed armor, and depth. On the morning of the engagement, German crews in their Panzer IVs prepared their positions. Teams scouted the terrain, low ridges, broken fields, patches of woodland, and marshy ground. They placed their tanks to exploit natural cover, hulls tucked into folds of terrain, turrets surveying open approaches. Commanders knew that 50 T-34s, advancing in mass, presented both threat and opportunity. Their strength lay in numbers, but discipline, surprise, and sectoring could break momentum. From the Soviet side, their 50 T-34s were organized under a tank regiment or reinforced grouping. Crews had learned to punch through German lines by concentrating fire, advancing in waves, and seeking to overwhelm isolated German units. Their doctrine emphasized speed and shock. In many Soviet counterattacks, the T-34's mobility and ability to absorb hits made it central to plans. As the Soviet force advanced, German observers tracked the dots on the horizon. Rangefinders locked on leading targets. The first German salvos were aimed at disrupting the Soviet formation's cohesion, destroying lead tanks, forcing deviations, and breaking up order. The opening exchanges were cautious, spotting shots, ranging salvos, probing attacks. The T-34s, meanwhile, pressed forward in columns and wedges. Some advanced along roads, others through broken ground to mask their movement. Their crews scanned for German muzzle flashes, turret silhouettes, for shadows cast in foliage. The inevitable moment came when the two armored lines came within 1 to 2 kilometers. Sudden fire, tracer streaks, the shock of shells. The fight evolved in phases. In the first, German fire aimed to halt the Soviet advance, before T-34s could plunge into close range. Their 7.5 centimeter KWK-40 gun could penetrate the frontal armor of T-34s, in many cases, especially with good targeting and range. Yet the Soviets knew this, and tried to avoid head-on duels when possible. Some T-34s attempted flanking moves, skirting the German flank through woodland or broken ground. Others drew fire deliberately, acting as bait or suppressing targets while their comrades maneuvered. German crews responded, adjusting turret arcs, moving tanks within hull-down positions, coordinating overlapping fields of fire. Critical moments arrived when 1 or 2 T-34s broke through the German defensive line, threatening to expose supply rear areas or command posts. The German commander then committed reserve tanks, repositioned flanking units, and concentrated fire on breakthroughs. The Soviet commander, sensing risk, sometimes held back reserves to reinforce weak points. Mechanical failures, ammunition shortages, and crew fatigue also shaped outcomes. Some German tanks, after several hits or near misses, withdrew or repositioned. Soviet guns sometimes jammed or overheated, tracks broke, coordination lagged. The discipline to maintain formation under fire became a deciding factor. Over the course of the engagement, German fire destroyed or disabled perhaps a dozen to 20 T-34s, according to German war diaries and unit logs. Soviet records, fragmentary as they were, corroborate losses but also record German losses. Several Panzer IVs were hit, some knocked out or damaged beyond repair. The clash turned into a tug of attrition, with each side probing, withdrawing, pressing. As dusk approached, the battle wound down. The Soviet force, having lost momentum, pulled back to reorganize, tend to wounded, recover what was salvageable. The Germans, though strained, held their ground. Neither side achieved a decisive breakthrough, but the tactical outcome favored the defenders. The fighting around Medzhybizh illustrates broader truths of the Eastern Front. Even when Soviet forces brought superior numbers of tanks, German tactics, terrain awareness, combined arms coordination, and crew quality could blunt attacks. At the same time, the Soviets' resilience and industrial scale meant that losses could be absorbed and followed with more offensives. One local memoir records a German commander remarking on the surprising tenacity of certain T-34 crews, how they refused to break even under heavy fire, though many perished. A Soviet memoir mentions how a single German tank, acting independently, disrupted a whole platoon's advance. Such micro-incidents, lost in grand narratives, shaped morale, command decisions, doctrine. In the months that followed, German armored units would push deeper into Ukraine. Soviet counteroffensives would reclaim ground. But each of these small clashes, Medzhybizh among them, fed into the larger strategic dynamics. The constant adjustment of systems, the arms race of tank and anti-tank, and the human dimension of decision, resolve, and adaptation. In considering the clash at Medzhybizh, one sees more than a technical duel of steel and gunpowder. One sees decisions made in the fog, men trusting their machines, terrain shaping fate, chance playing its subtle role. History is not only the great offensives and treaties, but also these smaller, intense moments. They are the warp threads in the broader tapestry. Can we, today, looking back, draw lessons on balance between quality, quantity, tactics, and human will. Perhaps the memory of such fights cautions us against overconfidence in machinery or doctrine. It reminds us that in conflict, as in many realms of human struggle, adaptability and judgment often matter more than raw power alone. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss new tales from the past.